The EU has agreed to fast-track negotiations for an Australia-EU trade deal after talks between Anthony Albanese and the EU Commissioner on the sidelines of the NATO summit in Madrid. The Prime Minister said negotiations would recommence within months for Australia to gain access to the $24 trillion market. Joining me now live is Tim Harcourt, Chief Economist at the Institute for Public Policy at the University of Technology in Sydney. He's also a former Chief Economist at Austrade. Tim, thank you very much for joining us. Is this a breakthrough, do you think?
Well, it is. I mean, it was certainly on ice for a long time. It was said that Australia had Europhobia. Now we've got a bit of Eurovision with this announcement, and the fact that the European Union and major nations, Germany, France and Spain, are behind it. That's pretty good news for Australian exporters.
So what does it mean for Australia?
I think for the most part, it's having access to the European market, getting rid of some of the agricultural barriers that we've had. I mean, there was a time when with Europe you could fly all the cows from France around the world twice business class for the cost of the common agricultural subsidies. So it's good that we're getting away from that European protectionism. And also, in some ways, because we've been very focused on Brexit and ties with the UK, it gives Australian firms who are interested in both continental Europe and the UK a chance to expand in both markets.
So who do you think would be then the big winners from this deal?
I think in some ways it'll be in areas like climate innovation. I was just interviewing the German minister when she was here about green hydrogen to Europe because of Russian-Ukraine war. Europe doesn't want to rely on Russian gas, Russian oil anymore. So we're actually talking in South Australia about green hydrogen going to Europe. So I think in technology and investment and our traditional areas like agriculture, there's going to be a lot of better access to Europe and obviously, a very large economy in its own right and be able to move across the different countries of Europe that are very significant economies.
There's obviously been a lot of focus on China tariffs. Do you think that such a deal like this could offset those tariffs?
Oh, it's not going to be big enough. I mean, when you look at the rise of the Chinese middle class and the energy and food security that China needs from Australia, if you put the USA and Indonesia and India together in terms of purchasing power, it wouldn't be where China's going to be. But it certainly will help, and it certainly sends a signal to the world that Australia's got good access to Asia, it's got good access to Europe, Latin America, the Middle East and Africa, and the emerging markets. So we're a global trading nation. We're not just relying on one trading partner. So it's good in that sense that it shows that we're a good multilateral member of the world trading system.
And this is, of course, Anthony Albanese's first trip to the EU since he became Prime Minister. What sort of guarantees do you think that he needs to ensure to be able to get this deal through?
I think the big obstacle was under the Morrison government, the position on climate change. For better or for worse, they seem to think that was a problem. So the work that Chris Bowen is doing will probably, help show that Australia is putting the green back in the green and gold, and we're on the same page as the Europeans when it comes to climate innovation. It's difficult for us. We're a big coal exporter. It's all right for New Zealand and Ireland to say no coal by 2030 or whatever. It's a bit more difficult for us, but we're seeing with the Airport Economist climate innovation show that I've done for DFAT, there's a lot of great things happening in Australia in renewable energy and green construction and architecture right across the board. So I think that's what the Europeans are seeing with the new Australian government and the new Australian outlook.
Just before we let you go, Tim, the Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, will announce the terms of a review into the Reserve Bank any day now. He wants to make sure the right voices are represented on the RBA board. The next vacancy comes up in August. Do you have any interest in a position on the board of the RBA?
Well, Danica, there is a view that you should have an ACTU representative and you should have an academic economist. Now, I'm someone who worked at the ACTU and indeed the Reserve Bank itself, as well as Austrade, and I'm now at the University of Technology Sydney. So if they wanted to have an academic economist who knows about labour markets and wages, I think I'd be a suitable candidate. And we haven't had an ACTU voice on the board since Bill Kelty. And if you're going to have an ACTU voice, then it's got to have some economic qualifications and some economic experience. So that's what I'd put if asked.
So you'd put your hand up, essentially, you confirm you'll put your hand up?
If I was honoured enough to be invited to join the board, yes, I would join on the grounds of knowing about labour markets and wages, but also international trade and the international economy based on my economic experience and background. So yes, I'd be honoured to serve, Danica, if I was invited.
Tim Harcourt, we have to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks, Danica. Good on you.